from Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullin. To tie all of this together, Senator, if you break the law or don't uphold the law of our land, ICE and the Trump administration will come after you. Just looking at Boston, notorious for ignoring ICE detainers and putting child sex offenders who are illegal migrants back out on the street. And notice to Mayor Wu, you are not allowed to make laws that circumvent and Bigfoot federal immigration law.
You know, Dagan, it's funny to me because these mayors and these demonstrators, these state legislators, or even, U.S. Elected officials will go out there, especially from the Democrat side, and say they're breaking the Constitution. And you're going, they're enforcing the law. I get they're arresting individuals that came here illegally. There's a legal process to come across. So they broke our laws. The Constitution doesn't apply at that point. They're criminals. ICE is going in and arresting criminals. Either we're a nation of laws or we're a lawless nation. And you can see lawlessness taking place in Boston. You saw it in Washington, D.C., but lo and behold, you can walk the streets now. And guess what? When you're walking the streets, you're not having puffs of marijuana hit you in the face. You're not having homeless people trying to harass you while you're going down the street. You're not having criminal activity take place right in front of you and police literally turning a blind eye to it. You can enforce the law, have a clean city, and guess what? You can still be productive and you can still live safe. They run hand in hand. Thank God President Trump came in and he's installing laws, enforcing laws back in our cities.
Okay, Senator, though, in contrast to Boston, and no argument that the mayor there, pretty radical in staking out a position that they don't want to cooperate with federal enforcement, even when we're obviously talking in a number of cases about violent criminals. But contrast that to the raid in Georgia. I don't see any suggestion that Hyundai or its joint venture partners or contractors were engaged in violence. South Korean government suggesting that some people were here on visas or as trainers, and there's kind of a murky debate about whether they were doing particular jobs that they should have been or shouldn't have been. As an enforcement priority, doesn't Boston make a lot more sense than Georgia?
Well, I think you got to go. You got to go wherever the criminal activity is. We have the resources to go more places than just Georgia. But James, when you start talking about construction sites, that's my bread and butter, right? I've been in construction since I was 20 years old, and everybody knows how this goes. You have a general contractor that goes in, he gets the job, then he starts hiring subs, and the subs start hiring other subs. And since you have a hard time meeting the labor force, everybody knows that the people doing the labor, a big chunk of them, these aren't licensed plumbers, electricians, framers. These are people that are doing the grunt work. Those individuals are illegal. And how the contractors are getting away from it is because they're hiring the subcontractor, paying the subcontractor, so the general contractor is legal, but no one that's working on the job site that's doing the grunt work is legal. And you can go to a house that's being framed. You can go to a house that's getting sheetrock hung on it. You can get a house that's being roofed. You're going to see this from the small construction sites to large construction sites. And so what ICE did here is they put everybody on notice saying, hey, if you want to be here legal and work, there's a legal process. Deport yourself legally, meaning go back home and then fill out the paperwork and come in legally, because if you get caught, the process is a 10-year wait before you can even try to re-enter.
And the burden should be on the employers. If you scare the doobies off of them, they'll stop hiring illegal migrants.
Well, the general contractor.
Yeah, but I found it comical that some of the regime media were writing about this major enforcement action by ICE, the biggest ever workplace enforcement action, but leading with South Korea and how South Korea felt about it. It was just, I was shaking my head.
Hey, come on, they're our friends. We just struck a trade deal.
No, but they don't lead with the news. The news is the enforcement action, not how South Korea might have his feelings hurt.
But Dagan and James, the fact is they were illegal. It doesn't make any
Right.
difference. They broke the law when they came here, or they broke the law once they got here, because some of these people may have had work visas when the job site started. They overstayed their visa. It's illegal. They agreed to something when they entered the country, or they broke the law when they entered the country. Either way, it was an illegal activity, and ICE has the right to enforce it.
Alleged, right? I mean, they did get a warrant, but these cases have not been adjudicated.
Well,
so
okay,
we'll
we'll
see
go
if
with
the
alleged,
South
but you
Koreans
and I
have a
both
case.
know
Almost
that they're
500
legal.
people. We'll see how many people get released. Senator,
Right.
the Department of Defense deploying F-35 stealth fighter jets to Puerto Rico for counter-narcotics tasks in the Caribbean. And this is, certainly related. We saw the taking out of this narcotics boat, this, again, cartel boat, but not a cartel. It's a foreign terrorist organization now. There are 9 of them that President Trump has designated. Show of force, and this is on the same day, of course, that President Trump has renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War. He's certainly sending a message.
Well, the difference between the Department of Defense is that we're reactive. The Department of War is going to be proactive, and what we're doing is we're taking a proactive approach to this. I want you to understand something too. This is a direct result of the One Big Beautiful Bill, because in the One Big Beautiful Bill that we passed, it actually gave money for this specific purpose and to the United States Coast Guard to enforce these laws in these open bodies of water, because the cartels were going around it. They weren't just coming on the land borders; they were going around our borders and international waters and coming into our cities with floods of drugs. Now you're seeing what the United States Coast Guard had the largest drug bust they ever have in history last week. And then today we're seeing the video, or actually yesterday we're seeing the video of us taking out this drug running boat that was warned to stop and it didn't. We're sending a message, and this is what I have to everybody: mess around and find out. You dispatch from Venezuela, guess what? You just got put on notice, and then you want to do a flyby by one of our Navy ships. You're playing with fire, because President Trump doesn't bluff. President Trump will be proactive, and so mess around and find out. This isn't the Biden administration. This is the Trump administration.
The Wall Street Journal printed a letter from a reader, and it said, history shows Chavismo, or the political ideology of Hugo Chavez, the Chavismo bravado vanishes under fire. I loved it. It was a short letter y'all published. Go ahead.
I'm glad you're pronouncing those words and not me.
I practiced, Mullin. I
That was
practiced.
well done. Last thing before you go, we did want to ask you, Senator, the Bureau of Labor Statistics put out the monthly employment report today. You met with E.J. Antoni, who is the nominee to lead that bureau. Please tell us what you learned in that meeting.
You know, for us to be accurate in judging where our economy is going and where it's headed or where it might be failing at, we got to have accurate statistics. And we're using data that is decades old on how we gather it. I mean, literally, the way we gather our job reports is by picking up the phone and calling landlines and hoping people will allow us to ask them questions. Polling doesn't work that way anymore. There's better ways to do it. And what EJ is saying is, like, let's revamp what we have. Let's bring it into today's technology. Let's use AI. Let's use the systems that are out there that are already communicating and talking to each other. Let's use online payroll companies. Let's use data centers to actually have accurate reports instead of what we're doing, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And EJ is willing to bring us into what? The 21st century. We should have got there a long time ago.
Amen. Senator Mark Wayne Mullin, great to see you, sir. We'll see you very soon.